track at the wall. We are tied.
Look at this. He's slammed it. I don't believe it. I don't believe it. Armstrong with a big leg. Over for the cover. He got it. Unbelievable.
High fly ball into right field. She is gone.
Austin, he got it. The starter. Mike Tyson in. Austin is the champion. Stone Cold. Stone Cold. Stone Cold.
Now the 2-2. Well hit down the left field line. Way back in.
Touch the ball, Drew. You'll never hit a bigger home run in your life.
Oh my God, no! Mankind did it! Nick Foley did it! No! Stone Cold did it! Mankind has achieved his dream and the dream of everyone else who's been told you can't do it! No! You can't do it! You can't do it! No matter what, got money on my mind, I can never get enough. And every time I step up in the building, everybody hands go up.
Welcome to WWE WAR. I'm your co-host. I was trying to do the Bobby primetime, but I botched it all. Anyway, WWE WAR, Wrestling Above Replacements. I'm JT. That's Marcus. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. Before we get started, absolutely no recap of a Royal Rumble would be complete without the Mountain Dew Pitch Black, baby. Yeah,
How is it?
it is really good.
Is it? You're hooked?
I have a baby mouth, so like I'm really inclined to like things that are just like really childish. But it's basically great Mountain Dew.
I'm not a big grape like soda fan.
I'm not a Mountain Dew fan, but I love this. This is
Yeah.
great.
Okay, I gotta try it. I looked for it the other day and I didn't spot it in the store, but I want to try the strawberry cream Dr. Pepper Zero. I gotta try that too.
I've heard bad things about it, but I'm like, for all
I'm
the
sure it
flavors-
sucks, but I'll try it.
I'm telling you, Chad, it's real good. You gotta give it a shot. Unofficial sponsor.
Yeah, that's the word on the street. It tastes like just like your ass. But it was said in a positive way. It was not in a negative way.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Stay tuned to other programming here on the North South Connection Network for that one. Yeah. So we're here. Listen, if you're listening along, thank you. If you're watching along as well, we are on video on our YouTube channel. So if you want to pop over and look at us as we talk, you can do that. Here on this program, we do a sabermetric style plus minus system, ranking every WWE pay-per-view of all time. We do it in a season format, and we're kind of hopping around. We're not doing chronological, but within the season we are, but outside the seasons we're not. So right now we're on the doorstep of wrapping up the 2015-16 season. And we say season, what we do is we start with the first pay-per-view following WrestleMania in any given calendar year. So we started this season with Extreme Rules 15. And it ends with WrestleMania the following calendar year, because that's kind of how a WWE season works in our estimation. So this season will end with WrestleMania 32, which we'll tackle in our next episode. We break down every match of the show. We each grade it. We average those grades, and that kind of gives us a total match grade score. And then we also break down the pay-per-views in all different categories. And if you think of something as, the whole basis of this podcast is being replacement level, which is as average as it gets. So average match grade, 2.5. Fine commentary, baseline. Just an acceptable thing that happens on a pay-per-view, baseline. Decent crowd, baseline. Bad crowd, -1. Great commentary line, +1. So we kind of go up, down, plus, minus, and we net everything out. That gives us a total WAR score, and then we're stack ranking every pay-per-view we've done. So we'll go over that at the end. Marcus, you want to quickly run down the categories that we break these pay-per-views down into?
Absolutely. We start off with build-up of the event, followed by commentary, atmosphere, notable moments and importance, match grades, card structure, rewatchability, all-time matches, and that gives us our total. And JT, for us, an all-time match for a positive is anything that we both agree is 4.25 and above. And for it to be a minus, it is something that we both agree is 0.75 and below.
Yes, so that'll be bonus minus plus points there, on top of the match grades. So for the match grade, we score the match on a standard 5-star scale. We take our average grade. So if I gave it a 2.25, you gave it a 3, right? We average those together and round it up. So that'll round up to 2 3/4, and then we plus minus it from that baseline of 2.5. So if it's 2.5 to 4, it gets a plus 1.5. If it's 2.5 to 1, it gets a minus 1.5. We kind of add that all up. So we'll explain as we go. But we're going to start tonight with the 2016 Royal Rumble. We are live from the Amway Center in Orlando, Florida, January 24th, 2016, 15,170. We are on the WWE Network, of course. Our commentary team is Michael Cole, John Bradshaw Layfield, and Byron Saxton. Of course, most of the season it was Jerry Lawler in that third spot, but Saxton's, I don't want to say it's been a positive change, but it's been a change. I mean, it's better than Lawler, I guess, but he doesn't add a ton. It's just, but it's almost addition by subtraction, I guess, is getting the king out of there. Of course, we wish him well with his stroke recovery, but that doesn't mean we want to listen to his 2016 commentary. So I think we can compartmentalize those things and move along. We did have a dark match on this evening. It was actually a Royal Rumble qualifier, as I shouldn't say dark match, a pre-show match. Jack Swagger and Mark Henry defeated Ascension, Sandow and Darren Young, and the Dudley Boys in a 4-way match to qualify for the Rumble. So Swagger and Henry are in the Rumble match. Surprised they didn't have the Dudleys in the Rumble? Match? Yes, it was. Are you surprised the Dudleys they didn't put him in the Rumble, that they had him lose in this match here? Like, why even have him there at this point? They're already cooked that bad.
I'm weird about tag teams in the Rumble. Like, I feel like if you're going to put a tag team in there, it's got to be like both guys have to be in the Rumble at the same time, or else it's just a waste. So, I mean, if they're not going to even be a threat, I don't know. I guess guys in there. Yeah.
I guess. I mean, is Swagger really a threat at this point? He had his little bounce with Rusev, but besides that, there's not a ton going on. All right, let's get to our card proper. We open with the Intercontinental title match, last man standing, Dean Ambrose versus Kevin Owens. We've enjoyed them so far in this little feud they've had going on, and that continued here on this one for me, Marcus. I went 4.25. This is a great opener. Last man standings can be a little tricky, but they did a really good job working this one. It was a hot way to start the show. Ambrose retains his title. 20-minute opener. I think this kind of gets overlooked when you think of like classic Rumble undercard matches. Like, I don't think you ever hear this one really get thrown out there, but I was impressed. I like this one a lot.
Yeah, I was right there with you. 4.25, almost got to 4.5 for me. I really love the simplistic build up to the finish, where it's just the big bump from the corner. It's less about like being a spectacle and just more about something that was built up to. But these guys have been delivering the goods all season, so not surprised to see an all-time match from them for both of us.
Yes, so that will be a bonus point when we get there. And so that, just to give an example for the WAR score, so our average is 4.25. That's plus 175 over the baseline, right? So that's a 175. So we're going to do that for every match, and we total those up, and that'll give us our output for that category.
All right, JT, our next match is for the WWE Tag Team titles, as it is the New Day retaining against the Usos.
Take on the Usos tonight.
These guys have fantastic chemistry. 4 stars for me. Or a WAR.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they have a great series of matches across like a decade now at this point. This is like the Usos were really good at this point, but they hadn't like taken that even further leap that they're going to take eventually. But they're like maybe like a couple of rungs up from where they were early on, and they still had good stuff even before this. But this really delivered again. I went 3.5, so a little below you. New Day's retained their bells, but I mean, again, like we're looking at really a strong 2 for 2 on this undercard so far. A show that you don't hear a ton about when you think of classic Rumble undercards, and here we are. I mean, for you, it's 2 4+ star matches, so it's a strong start. We roll on. Kalisto wins the United States Championship over Alberto Del Rio in 11 minutes, so a pretty big upset there. again, like I like this decent enough. I went 3 stars. I thought it was a cool moment. They were in and out. Del Rio was maligned at times, but like I thought this little feud Kalisto has actually been pretty solid. I like the finish too, where Del Rio takes the padding off the turnbuckle. Kalisto hits a diving Rana, and Del Rio hits the buckle, and then we get the Salida del Sol for the win. I thought this was a nice reward for Kalisto too, coming off the Lucha Dragon's great performance at TLC. So they're kind of give him a little solo push. So I like this match again. I think we're staying hot.
Yeah, leveling off a little bit for me. I'm not too far behind you. I'm at 2.75 for my match rating there. Next up is the Divas title, as it is Charlotte defending against Becky Lynch. The continued implosion of Team C. What were they?
PCB.
Yeah, there we go. These ladies had a fantastic match. I like any time that they're paired off against each other. We talked in our first season about Double J and Razor Ramon being just like an
Yes.
automatic
2 3/4.
Yeah, for 2 3/4. So these two for me, 3.5. I really loved all the character work. I liked everything they did with Nature Boy on the outside. And Becky is really coming into her own as we get into the back stretch of the season.
Yeah, they're really continuing to push the story that Charlotte's like edging into her dad and kind of playing dirty, and Becky's kind of pissed about it, and Rick gets involved in this one again. It's a good spot too. Lynch has the disarmor on, and Flair throws a jacket on her, and then turns into a spear from Charlotte. So it was a good finish. It's also the return of Sasha Banks. We'll talk about that as a moment later, but she attacks Charlotte. So that we're setting up, it looks like potentially the Mania feud. You would think maybe Sasha and Charlotte coming out of this. Sasha's back. I went 3.5 as well. So, I mean, dude, that's a strong undercard. Pretty much, 3 to 4.25 across the board. So I feel like this one definitely gets overlooked long term for Rumble undercards. We'll see if the Rumble match delivers.
All I could think about for all I could think about for a team PCB was the name they weren't allowed to use because it had a already used purpose, shall we say? The submission authority.
Oh,
I think that's what they were going to be for like a week, and then somebody did some googling, hopefully on incognito mode, and
realized what was up.
Yeah,
no bueno. All right, we have a very interesting Rumble match to close out the night. It's for the WWE World Title for the first time since 1992. Roman Reigns' world title was put up on the line. He was going to have to go all the way from number 1. The match was built around him. So he comes out to start. Rusev is 2. We get the huge shock at number 3. I say huge shock. It was pretty well known he was going to be there, but it's a cool moment. AJ Styles makes his debut. He was well done in Orlando. Of course, this is any U.S. city where he's going to have a bunch of recognition. It was definitely going to be Orlando after all his years in TNA. He was coming off really like a real hot run too with New Japan and Ring of Honor. So he was pretty coveted. He was also signed, like, because the whole group got signed, where it was like him, Nakamura, and what's their names? Anderson and Gallows, right? When they all pretty much signed like together as like a group. So that was like a big deal when they all got signed. So him debuting here is the most memorable part of the Rumble, I would say. Of course, we also have Triple H, who comes in at number 30. We hadn't seen him since Reigns beat the shit out of him at TLC. So that was a surprise entrant. And Reigns actually is not the final guy thrown out. He goes out, and then it's down to Triple H and Ambrose. And Triple H wins his 9th WWE World Title, 14th World Championship overall at the end of the night. To a pop. We'll talk about it. It's a pop. I think it was shrewd, though, to do Ambrose there because you guaranteed maybe at least it wouldn't all be pro Triple H down the stretch. They could make Reigns feel more screwed. If it was just Reigns and Hunter, Reigns wasn't going to get cheered at all. So I like this as a Rumble match. My baseline for a Rumble is usually around like 4 stars. Like, it's hard for me. I start there for a Rumble because I just love all the Rumble matches. So you're going to be kind of bad to like dip below that. Anything below 3.5 for me is like our all-time bad Rumble. So a Rumble could still be a 3, but to me that's like some of the worst Rumbles, so like 3s or whatever. So I went 4.25. So I had this like just above a really good Rumble. I don't think it's in the great Rumble territory, but I do think it was really good. So again, especially the Styles part. We had the Wyatts all working as a team. I thought that was cool. We had Brock coming in, and it looked like maybe kicking off a feud with the Wyatts. It seemed like they were headed that way. Sami Zayn's return after his injury earlier in 2015. That was a big moment. So it's a pretty memorable Rumble overall. And again, a very good Rumble. The crowd was into it. So what did you think of the match itself?
I'm right there with you. I went 4.25 as well. I think this could have been a great Rumble had they taken a few more chances. The thing I really didn't like about it was it's titled One Versus All, and Roman gets taken out like less than halfway through the match, and he misses the majority of the match. And you can't have a match titled One Versus All and then have the dude out of the match for the whole time. It's just kind of a crutch with the Rumble they do every now and then that I don't really like. So
that's what made Walter or Gunther's run so impressive this year. Was he's one of the few that went the full hour, not the Shawn Michaels 30, but like the full hour, and didn't wreck. I mean, it's him, Flair. I mean, even Backlund took a nap. I think him and Flair are two of the only ones that went bell to bell with like no real rest, just going. That's why, we don't do now entering the Rumble really anymore. But I think Gunther 2023 would have a run at the top spot. Just
you guys got put through the table on the outside. You're just taking a little rest.
Yes, we are. That's true.
Yeah. I went back and forth on this match, but I think it is it definitely is not, I think, an all-time classic for us. But there's still room for this to be a lot better. Triple H at the end, they kind of, I think when they took Brock out of the match, it was like the air was let out of the balloon.
Yeah.
And Triple H coming back was like one final puff into the balloon, but the hole was already too big to hold the air. So,
yeah.
But the crowd did cheer because it was a cool moment. It's not something that was expected. 4.25 for me.
All right, so I mean, 5 matches, 2 all-time greats for us. It's a strong card. It's a strong card, and it's a 6 total WAR for match grade. So that's high. I mean, that's on the higher end for us to get that, and especially out of only 5 matches. I mean, it's not even a compiler show. It's just they're all really good. All right, let's get to our plus minus for other categories. So let's start with build. We gave a point for the Authority punishing Reigns and putting the title on the line. A point for rebuilding Reigns with the full odds stacked against him. A point for the Wyatts taking out all the top Rumble players leading up to the match. A point for Del Rio and Kalisto's feud over the U.S. title. A point for the growth of the League of Nations leading up to this show. A point for the very long Charlotte Becky feud that's been raging with Rick that we mentioned earlier. And a point for the Owen Zayn lifelong build kind of spilling over here. It obviously started on the Indies and continued to NXT, and now Zayn's return, they reignite it, and it'll be a running thing here in 2016.
And for our minus section, we only have Xavier Woods' trombone, Francesca, being destroyed.
It was sad.
One of our better builds. And I remember that I was like really glued into the TV at this time, and the TV is really good. It's got a lot of focus, and they got like a core talent that they're really booking around. So I think the positive build score that the show earned is definitely deserved.
Yep, agreed. All right, let's get to our commentary. No King, so we're shaking up the booth, which is a nice thing. So a point for that. A point for Cole bringing up all the classic last man standing matches of the past during the opener. Good use of history. A point for really presenting the women strongly, telling their story. Like we're starting to get there more and more, and you could tell. And also a cool little, we have a point for this cool callback where they mention how Curtis Axel was eliminated in 2015. If you recall that long running joke, and they bring it back here. So that was cool, kind of threading from year to year.
Yeah, give the Axeman a little something. For our minuses, we've got JBL is sick. He should not be on the show.
Oh my God, he sounds awful.
Yeah, he's struggling. He should not be on the show. Cole is very robotic with his Rumble stats all throughout the match. Way too prepared, and gives away any feeling of like surprise. Like this person comes out, I have this stat, pulled
it's like
up.
As soon as they're barely out of the curtain, he's already reading it. So it made it seem like he knew who was coming. It was like buzzer goes off. Dolph Ziggler's in his 9th Royal Rumble. His first one was 2007. Like he doesn't even give it a beat to like say, okay, let me look it up. It's Dolph. It's like he's saying it as he's coming through the friggin' curtain.
Right. I mean, you have like 90 seconds or whatever to get that stat out. It doesn't have to come out right away.
Yeah.
Cole has a very bad could it be?
Yeah.
Is that who I think it is? Like when AJ Styles comes out.
Right. Just give us a silence and then get into it.
Yeah. JBL talking down about the luchadors and loving to bully them. Seems on brand with JBL, but that doesn't really mesh well with his sports announcer style, his Howard Cosell style.
Yeah, he hasn't been doing like that heel stuff really during this run. He's doing the very talky stuff, so like all of a sudden he's talking about loving to bully luchadors and everything else. It was like,
yeah, and it's not consistent. And then lastly, we've got Saxon goes minutes at a time without saying a word.
Many minutes.
I even forgot that he was on the show at times. Then like I'd hear him, and I think it was Lawler. Like he's very nondescript.
Yeah. All right, so -1 for commentary. Not a surprise. All right, atmosphere. We gave a point for the Roman Gladiator kind of Coliseum theme to the event. Always fun for a Rumble. A point for the Red Hot crowd during the opening match. A point for the New Day entrance. A point for the crowd hanging with those long undercard matches, like they're in all of them. A point for the crowd reaction to Sasha's return. A point for the Rumble reactions. The crowd was on fire for all the overacts. Styles, Owens, Zayn, Lesnar, Wyatt's. Like they're into everything. And then a point for AJ Styles, the theme song, of course, debuting in the pop for his arrival.
Yeah, it's telling just how over with the crowd a lot of those younger or newer, fresher talents are, like Styles and Zayn and Owens and stuff like that.
And they had his theme like nailed right away. Like sometimes you get a guy maybe who had like instrumental version and then they figure it out, but his came ready to rock out of the gate on that debut right there.
Yeah. For our minuses, we've got a basic set with no real Royal Rumble theme. The Brock elimination, as we talked about, deflates the crowd for the rest of the Rumble match. Reigns still not getting over on the biggest stage, even for the big return. Triple H gets cheered and gets the win. We went -2 there. And the crowd not really into the countdown and the entrances outside of the talent that we really talked about.
So we gave a total of score 2. And the reason we gave the -2 in that Reigns one is like we've put so much time and effort into his push. And it's like for him to be set up this way and still not be engaged with, like it was like, when are you going to tap? We talked about it with Survivor Series and TLC, like at some point, like, we're still going full steam ahead and they are. So, but the crowds are still not there. All right. A lot of notable moments going on. So we give a point for the first time a champion ever defends his title in the Royal Rumble. We mentioned that the title was on the line 92, but it was vacant. Here, Reigns is the champion going in. A point for Owens wiping out Michael Cole and kind of messing with his face as he's getting up. It was hilarious. He like falls into it, but he's like pie facing him trying to get up. It was really funny. A point for the debut of Francesca 2. So we were sad about Francesca 1 getting destroyed, but Francesca 2 is here. A point for the first ever Usos New Day pay-per-view match. A point for the first Charlotte Becky one-on-one pay-per-view match.
Wow.
A point for Ric Flair's ringside antics, which are super memorable, throwing the coat and all that. We had 2 points for AJ's debut. Obviously, he's a Hall of Famer, worth the bonus. A point for Sami Zayn's return. A point for Kofi Kingston avoiding elimination by riding Big E's shoulders around the ring. A point for Kalisto winning the U.S. title. A point for R-Truth bringing the ladder in the ring because he's confused about the gimmick. A point for Owens eliminating Styles, which is a good makeup for his earlier loss, so making a statement. A point for kicking off the Lesnar-Wyatt feud. And 2 points for Triple H's surprise return, winning the Rumble for the second time, and winning the world title. So we went 2 on that because it's a pretty big moment.
Yeah, a lot happening. For our minuses, we've got the creepy opening with Vince and Steph, kind of frisky coming out of the limo. Like
that was weird.
And stuff. It was, very weird. And then Vince is butchering his lines. Continual dismissal of JoJo as well going on in that segment. Rowan missing a large portion of the Rumble match, as we talked about. Also avoiding the money confrontation with Lesnar. Like they did a little bit of business on TV, building that up. And then the Wyatt family got involved. And so like you're building that tension and then it never gets paid off in the Rumble. Triple H getting all of the things. He gets number 30. He gets the big entrance. Roman is selling fear, for Triple H, for Dad, like coming home. He eliminates Dolph, and then he also gets to like dethrone Roman by being the one to toss him out of the ring and eliminate him. And then he outsmarts the whole field, including Roman. And then he out wrestles and eliminates Ambrose as well. So
it's a full Triple H stroke fest.
It's the best way to say it. Yeah. So for all that, we went with a -2.
So as usual, this is the most Triple H thing ever. He wipes himself out on these notable moments. Like we gave him the +2 for the big win, the surprise return, and then -2 because he gets all this fucking garbage on top of it. So as usual, he's like the good always outweighs the bad with this guy. So
Yeah, and one more. We got Rusev being lost at sea in the match. He's an afterthought to open the Rumble.
Yeah, he gets involved later with the League of Nations stuff, but he doesn't feel like a threat. He feels like
Yeah.
a goon in that.
Yeah.
So, but that's a +9 for moments. So, and think of how high it could have been. I mean, it was a lot of positives, but there was a lot of negatives that drag it down. So strong there. Match grades we talked about was a 6. Card structure, we gave a point for starting hot with the intense feud and wild opener. A point for every undercard match having the title, so there's no restlessness going into the Rumble, no throwaway matches. A point for the women getting the undercard main event slot. So, I mean, kind of the first really big spot for them so far. Like they've had some, more time and more focus, but that's traditionally the closer spot on the Rumble. So when you either after the Rumble or right before the Rumble match, at least before they start the double Rumble and all that. But historically, to this point, that slot was the main event of the undercard.
Right.
A point for AJ getting all the shine early on. That was a smart way to set the matchup. A point for Wyatt's doing the Legacy 09, just dominating as a team. You don't get to see it enough in the Rumble. And a point for the good Rumble finish with the guaranteed new champion at the end. So Reigns going out, and now we're like super hyped because the guy we don't like already that we assumed was going to win is out, and Ambrose we're into, so maybe he's going to get his moment. So that was a good booking there.
For our minuses, we've got a lot of network ads instead of hype packages and segments on the show, which is a bummer. Like they have their own network. They could have so much footage that they could be showing and utilizing, but instead it's, these advertisements for what's coming to the network. The biggest stars in the Rumble all avoid each other, like Lesnar and Reigns, Lesnar and Triple H. A lot of laying around while one thing happens center ring. That kind of trope in the Rumble or crutch is really obvious here, and it takes away from the match.
All right, so that's a +4 for card structure. Rewatchability, we give a point for the Ambrose Owens table bumps, which are really good. A point for AJ's debut. It's always worth a watch. A point for the pop for Sammy coming out. A point for Brock just crushing everyone. A point for Big E catching Kofi on his shoulders. And a point for Rusev's table splash on Reigns. And then the big League of Nations hug with Vince was pretty funny. How they're all embracing and celebrating Reigns getting taken out.
Then that's where Rusev takes the monitor with him, becomes the TV champion. That's good stuff. In our minus section, we only have 2, which is the number of ads and useless segments, and then Becky's annoying loose boot cover. It's kind of distracting during that match. Yeah.
So that's another +4. And you know what? This is actually going to shift a little bit.
Oh yeah.
There was 2 all-time matches, so that gives us a total WAR score of 32, Marcus, which is very high.
Praise. That is high praise.
That is very high for us. So let's take a look at our list here and see where it falls. It didn't change by adding that point. It is a top 6 show. No, top 1, 2, 3, 5 show right now.
Top 5, okay.
Top 5 show. Just a point and a half below WrestleMania 21 and 2.25 above Money in the Bank 11. So that's a big finish for this show, but it's got a great set of matches, a ton of memorable moments, 2 all-time matches, a great crowd.
Yeah,
it's kind of got everything.
When you're watching, the lowest dip is Kalisto and Del Rio. Like that's
right. And that was a fine
card's
match.
in really good shape.
Yeah, I feel like this definitely gets not mentioned enough when you think of like great Rumble cards.
Yeah,
I think this is one that should be talked about more. So, all right, what do you say we head on to our next show?
Let's go on over.
All right, we're going to move over to Fastlane 2016. February 21st, 2016. Quicken Loans Arena, Cleveland, Ohio, 14,446. The same team we just had, Cole, JBL, Byron Saxton. Your boy Morrow worked the pre-show with Byron. So he didn't miss much there, I guess. Kalisto and Del Rio battled again on the pre-show. Kalisto won the best 2 out of 3 falls to retain the U.S. title, so continues to dominate that feud. And that brings us right into the show itself, where Becky Lynch and Sasha Banks kick us off by defeating Team Bad, Naomi and Tamina, just under 10 minutes. I thought it was a perfectly cromulent opener. about as league average as it gets, 2.5. I would argue that's a bit of a letdown when you think Sasha and Becky teaming. But you know, what are you gonna do? Can't win them all. Tamina and is only gonna carry you so far. So
yeah, 2.5 for me as well. Just replacement level. So I won't waste any more time on that. We'll get to our Intercontinental title match for the evening, as it is Dolph Ziggler challenging Kevin Owens, and Kevin Owens is going to retain. I went 3 3/4, so 3.75.
it's a good match.
Yeah,
they gave him 15
guys
minutes.
rocked it.
Yeah, I went 3.5. Like, I mean, Owens has been great all season. Like, no hiding anything there. But these are the matches where you make your hay. Like, this is going to get him into our MVP discussion, right? Or our top 5 maybe, because you're our fave 5. Because this is like
fave 5.
this is like where you make your hay, because yeah, he's got those top matches with Cena, but Cena's got great matches too with Rollins and everything else. So like, how are you going to pad your resume? Well, is by having these random matches on these shows all hit 3.5, 3 3/4. Like, that's where you make a statement and really deliver on these seasons. So, I mean, here he is checking in with a, for us, it's almost a 4-star match combined, where he retains the IC title, and it's one they could have mailed in. Like, he didn't have to go out there and bust it, but they deliver. So it's a really good match.
It's a lot like the Cesaro match from SummerSlam this season. It's like 3.5 for no reason.
Yeah. All right, we get a 6-man tag next as Big Show, Kane, and Ryback defeat the Wyatt family in a 6-man tag, just under 11 minutes. I don't know. I went 2.5. It was, some good Haas stuff there. The finish is weird. Like, I don't know why Ryback is pinning Harper. Like, he's not really getting a push. I mean, none of it is. Like, the Wyatts are set up maybe a few with Brock. Like, we'd seen that. Yeah. So, like, why are they losing to this team? I mean, Big Show's not going anywhere. Kane's been a freaking thorn in our side all season. So, like, why are we winning this match?
Yeah, I went just a tick higher, 2.75, and that's probably just on the strength of the back of Luke Harper. I just think his work is impeccable. So, but yeah, less said about that, probably the better. Our next contest is for the Divas title, as it is Charlotte Flair, our champion, defending against Brie Mode herself, Brie Bella. I went with a WAR score of 3 for this match.
Yeah, I went to a 2.75. A perfectly acceptable Charlotte defense. It's just trying to get her along to Mania, where we know she's going to be involved in something with Becky and or Sasha. Brie hadn't really had her shot yet. Like, we had the whole Charlotte Nikki thing in the fall, so why not roll Brie out here? This was on the heels of Bryan's retirement, right? Have that happened yet? Yeah. Okay. So that bumps it too, right? That puts her into the story. So I think that just happened, right? Pretty recently.
Yeah, this is pretty much them running back, like the Ray doing it for Eddie kind of.
Yeah. So
push.
That's why they did it. So I think it was a fine decision to eat up a month, give Charlotte a little more.
Yeah, totally fine defense.
All right, so that brings us to our next match, which is AJ Styles defeating Chris Jericho by submission, 16.5 minutes. I'll be honest, for 2 of my all-time favorites, I didn't think they had a lot of chemistry during this run. I'll be curious how the Mania match holds up. I was not a fan of Y2AJ at the time. Like, I thought, you're bringing in AJ hot. Yeah, Jericho's like a good gatekeeper type guy. It felt like they knew AJ wasn't in their main event plans going into Mania, so they had to stall him out until after Mania. But they wanted him to debut at the Rumble, right? So it's like, all right, what do we do? So Jericho, in theory, seemed like a fine holdover until you get there, but I don't know. I thought the chemistry was just a little bit off for them. So I went 3.25 on this one. We'll see how Mania holds up with them, but I don't know. It's not the most impressive pairing. You would think it'd be better.
Yeah, like, Jericho is at a advanced stage in his career at this point, so it's probably not, the match you would have thought they'd have in like 2005. But even that, like, I still went 3.5. I thought they built to the finish pretty well, kind of building around the submissions, and I thought I'd probably be a little bit lower, but it settled at 3.5 for me. So pretty good.
Well, what's next? That's okay.
Our next match is R-Truth taking on the Axeman, Curtis Axel. Axel's going to pick up the win. This one had a lot of shenanigans with Goldust and the Social Outcasts. I went with a WAR score of 1. The work itself was okay, but just too many distractions. The booking it felt out of place being on the pay-per-view itself. How'd you feel about it?
I mean, I didn't really see the point. I went a half a star. You saved it from being all-time bad as usual, Mother Teresa of the podcast. Save all these garbage matches from losing the point.
Unless it's got 255 guys from NXT.
I mean, I didn't see the point of this one. It was like, yeah, it was an absolute Raw segment. We just didn't need it. I know you're trying to pad it out, but it's like 2 minutes anyway.
Yeah,
it's a bunch of garbage. We didn't really talk about it yet, but there's a segment before this with Edge and Christian and the New Day on the Peep Show, League of Nations. Like, just give me 2 more minutes of that.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Instead of having this, this was unannounced too, so maybe they realized they were going to be 5 minutes short and they just threw it out there. But you're on the network, I mean, I guess they were still on pay-per-view, but I don't know. I figured they could have just told Edge and Christian to tell jokes for 3 more minutes. Been fine. I think it would have been okay.
Yeah.
All right, that brings us to our main event, which is a number 1 contenders match for WrestleMania to take on Triple H, and that is Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Brock Lesnar. Reigns wins in just under 17 minutes. I went 4 1/4. I thought this match was really, really good. Again, kind of another forgotten classic during this run. Reigns, when he's with the right guys, is delivering during this time period. Brock is always on fire, and Ambrose is just super over. We'll talk about it at Roadblock, but I was documentedly strong. And you go back and listen to Clotheslines and Headlines 1.0 that aired, extensively during that early 2016 period. And I was very, very strongly of the belief that they should. Oh, no, maybe it was the Kevin Kelly show. Clotheslines has a minute later. It was one of those podcasts. I think it might be the Kevin Kelly show. One of them, I was like adamant that they should do a 4-way at Mania. I really felt strongly that they should have done. They should have done Ambrose, Brock, Hunter, Reigns, 4-way world title at Mania. And then even if Reigns wins and the crowd boos, you at least mask it, like take it down right to the end. Everyone's involved. It's hot. Maybe he steals the win instead of what we end up getting. So we'll talk about it more in our next 2 shows, but I thought this could have been a setup to that by having some kind of convoluted non-finish with these 3 guys that sets them to be all the number 1 contenders for the next month. But
yeah.
But the match itself was good, again, which is standard for this era. It's like the matches are fine. It's the booking.
Yeah, match was great for me as well. I went 4 1/4. And I'm with you again. I thought they should have went with a 4-way. And I'm a big, main event should probably always be 1-on-1, but there's just so much chaos heading into this WrestleMania with all the injuries and new debuts and stuff like that. And you've got like NXT that weekend. Just like with everything going on, I was like, same mindset as you. Like, they should just take the 4
and Reigns wasn't over, and
stars
Triple H isn't over. So it's like how are you going to salvage this match? Like Reigns, they weren't getting him over. So you're going into this show knowing the guy you're going to close with is a top babyface no one wants to see, and the guy who's a champion no one wants to see. So it's like, all right, well, we have 2 red hot guys that everyone loves, and Brock and Ambrose. Throw them in the freaking match, and like it'll be a lot better. The only thing I can think of is maybe at this point Brock was still scheduled with Bray, I'm guessing, because they still kind of play that along a little bit.
Yeah.
So maybe Bray wasn't officially out. So maybe if that's out, I thought, okay, well, if Brock is married to Bray, then do a 3-way. Do Ambrose, Reigns, and Triple H. Like, that would have been fine, too. All right, so total WAR score of a 4. So, again, a very good in-ring card. I mean, it's always the case in this era. Always the case. All right, let's get to our plus minus elsewhere. For the build, we gave a point for Becky and Sasha's ongoing frenemy angle, a point for the Team Bad explosion leading up to this, a point for the Wyatts and the Haas boys war burning up, a point for Charlotte telling Brie to go home instead of wrestling, kind of pushing her along as a heel some more. A point for AJ and Jericho series, AJ trying to prove himself. Again, I wasn't a big fan, but it was still a well-developed story. And a point for the good story, the Shield having to pick the title over friendship. Heyman was really kneeling that in the build. Like, are you guys going to pick each other, or are you going to do the right thing and fight for the title like you should be? And, Brock is going to prey on that weakness that they have going on, their brotherhood, and take advantage. So that was the story going in that Heyman was really spinning.
Mm-hmm. For our minuses, we've got the Intercontinental title match being built mostly on social media. Brian having to retire, Nikki being hurt, and all that being why they turned Brie face to try to transfer some of that simpy onto her and force push her back in. And then using the New Day to hype ENC instead of like having them in a feud, having them hype the ENC show instead of having them be in a feud. Because I mean, this season they've been killing it, and they could have added a lot to this card just by being on it.
Well, and that was, I mean, they were, we didn't mention that, but yes, the Edge and Christian were on because the Edge and Christian show was starting, and they were trying to use this as a backdoor pump up for it.
Yeah.
If you dump the Curtis Axel thing and maybe shave a minute off here and there, you could have went the Edge and Christian peep show right into a League of Nations New Day match or something. If you want to do that as well, that could have been another way to go about it.
Yeah. Edge and Christian show, my favorite WWE Network.
It was really
programming.
Good. Yeah, it was good. Legends House as well, of course.
That's good. Yeah.
All right, so that's out to a +3. Let's go to commentary. Cole, he did a good job with the Brie Bella story throughout that match, I thought, despite the questionable material. He also really did a nice job matching the frenetic energy in the main event. He kind of came to play tonight. And we give a point for JBL putting over Ambrose's strategy, targeting the left leg in the match. So that was a good point there he was bringing out.
For our minuses, we've got Cole going on about Ziggler being from Cleveland, but Lillian doesn't mention it when Dolph comes out. So Cole has to cover up, work twice as hard to explain that. All three give a pathetic effort to hype up the Vince McMahon award the next night, which that leads to Shane coming back, right?
At least, Taker and all that, and he gives himself the award, and Shane comes out.
Yeah, and it sounded like they were mocking it. It just wasn't. Yeah, it just wasn't a good build to it. But that was it.
A rare +1 for commentary, so that's a win for them. Atmosphere, a point for the crowd really getting pulled into Owen Ziggler. They heated up into it. A point for the Wyatt family entrance, always awesome. Point for Charlotte's entrance. Point for AJ's entrance. Big pop for Edge and Christian coming out. Hot entrance for Ambrose, and then the Lesnar entrance, the Suplex City chant. So a very good night of intense entrances and great crowd reactions for them.
For our minuses, we have the continued use of the basic HD set, nothing special. The crowd being dead for Tamina and Naomi. Not much of a hometown pop for Dolph. Thanks, Lillian. No pop for the Face Haas team either in the 6-man tag. We got that terrible Brie Bella song instead of the classic Bella theme. So the Brie mode. I hate that.
I was looking forward to the "You Can Look But You Can't Touch."
That's a banger, yeah.
Oh God, for the first half of the season, we were watching it would be in my head for like 2 weeks after watching those shows. It's an earworm.
We got a couple more here. The crowd being dead for the Social Outcasts, and that long stretch of nonsense in the middle of that match, and then Reigns being booed fully.
So it washes. Zero for atmosphere. So we had a lot of good, but a bunch of bad. Washes it out. Notable moments, not a ton on the show. A point for Ryback beating the Wyatts clean. I mean, it was notable. I mean, it's a big win for him. A point for AJ Styles winning his first ever pay-per-view match. Edge and Christian's return to WWE television, so a point for that. And New Day, League of Nations, Mania feud kicking off as well. So that was a notable moment on the show.
Sorry, my daughter is hollering.
You're good. You're good. I'll cover while you look over there. We'll
hold on. Okay,
roll on. I can cover the negative
I'm
here.
Ready. I'm ready.
All right. You got it?
Yeah.
Go for it, big man.
All right. For our minuses, we've got Reigns doesn't pin Lesnar and then gets booed despite the awesome match.
Yes. So that's a +3 for no moments. Not as big as most, but strong. We give a 4 for match grades. Card structure. We give a point for the opening with a very over team of Sasha and Becky. Smart move there. A point for closing with the biggest match on that as well.
For our minuses, we have the consistent flow of like slower pace, grinded out style matches. Not a lot of card or match variants across the show. Putting Styles into a feud with an over face kind of limits his early pops. Like you're trying to establish him as a face, so maybe not pit him against another established guy that the crowd loves. Crowd engagement. The no world title match, stacking a long promo, network ads, the piss break match, and another network ad at the end of the show, just made for a very shaky last 25 minutes or so.
All right, so that nets out to a -2 on card structure. Rewatchability, we gave a point for the New Day, Edge and Christian promo, a point for Brock Lesnar's insane suplex barrage, including one where he catches a Dean Tope into a belly-to-belly on the floor. So just a madman with the suplexes.
That was awesome. For our minuses, we have Harper messes up the elbow during the finish. And Truth and Axel, that whole entire finish was pretty dumb as well.
All right, so that nets out to a 0 for rewatchability. We got the all-time match in Reigns, Ambrose, Lesnar with a 1. So that gives us a total war score of a 10. So pretty middle of the road for us. If you look at, how many shows we've done, give or take. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7. Yeah, so we've done about 67-ish shows at this point, and this is around, late 40s, so almost halfway. I mean, just kind of in the middle. It's like a point behind Bad Blood 04, a point ahead of Vengeance 11. This is like in that group. No Hell in a Cell 11, No Mercy 04, like that. Those kind of shows, right? Where they're not bad, nothing you're probably gonna throw on, but if you did, it's kind of like whatever, kill a few hours.
Yeah. Fastlane, more like middle lane, am I right?
Yeah. No doubt. Marcus, tonight though, we're doing a bonus third show because of the way this all washed out. With WrestleMania 32 being as intense as it is, we wanted to give that its own night to itself. So we did have an extra show we were going to do. So we figured, hey, let's throw it all out against the wall tonight. We're going to have a third show covered on. All right, so that means we are covering Roadblock 2016. It's actually the first Roadblock of the year. There'd be 2 of them. There's a formal pay-per-view at the end of the year in December where they use a Roadblock end of the line messaging. This one is the just a network special. It was originally meant to be a house show in Toronto. It was entitled March to WrestleMania live from Toronto, but they figured, hey, why don't we broadcast it live to hype more of WrestleMania? Put a couple big matches on there. And, we'll go ahead with it. So we ended up converting this into a network special. And that means we're going to cover it. So March 12-16 from the Ricoh Coliseum in Toronto. We have 9,000 in attendance. And we're going to get right into things with our dark matches. Was Mark Henry defeating Randy Sharp. I don't know who that is. And Goldust defeating Victor on the dark matches. So not much.
The Ascension.
Victor. And then we get into our opening match on the show itself, where the New Day defend their tag team titles against the League of Nations. It was Big E and Kofi Kingston against King Barrett and Sheamus, just under 10 minutes. These teams will face off at WrestleMania in a 6-man, so this is a little backwards. Usually you'd think the 6-man would lead to the tag title match, but they do the tag title bout here. They'll set up the big 6-man at Mania. As far as openers go, it was fine. I went 3 stars. Yeah, it was 4 guys that are good workers and know how to just put on a match like this without a problem.
Yeah, as soon as I saw the participants for the match, I was like, oh, this seems like a 3-star match, and it's exactly what it was. Yeah, Sheamus especially is really good for that kind of delivery. Yeah, I guess we can talk about the 6-man tag at WrestleMania when we do the WrestleMania show. So yeah. I'll save my thoughts for that later. Our next contest is Chris Jericho taking on Jackie Swaggart. The All-American American, very over in Toronto. Of course, Jericho cuts the heel promo before we get started. And I went with a war score of 2.75 for this match.
Yeah, me too. That was a pretty good little match. I mean, Swagger's always fine for this stuff. Yeah. Right? He'll give it 2 3/4 to 3 1/4. Nothing's ever going to be bad. He can work the match, but he's also not going to build the level of heat that you need to probably really get over the hump. So. But that said, it was definitely enjoyable. 2 3/4 for me as well.
Yeah, I really like Swagger in the babyface role. I think it's a good role for him.
All right, so we have a really cool moment here as they integrate some NXT action into this house show / special. As the Revival, Dash Wilder and Scott Dawson, the NXT champions, make their official big roster debut against Enzo and Cass, also making their debut unofficially. So 10 minutes here, the Revival win. I went 3 1/4. So I thought it was a cool little taste test to get you to see these guys on a main roster show. The crowd was also very knowledgeable of them. Like they were super hot for this match. They knew all 4 guys. They were excited for it. It's a cool little preview. The Revival, were over already, but they would really have their big breakout Mania weekend.
Yeah.
In NXT Dallas, TakeOver Dallas, right? Is that where they fight American Alpha?
Yep.
And they have that classic match. So they're really starting their ramp up, and they're gonna have like the DIY stuff coming up and all that. So they're on their path to a really strong year, and it kind of kicks off here with this little moment. And then Enzo Cass will be up in a month as well. They debut officially the night after Mania. So.
Very nice. I went 3 1/4 as well. And you mentioned that all these acts the crowd seems to be familiar with. And it's just weird how like NXT is still continued from then, but I feel like the crowd is less familiar with the NXT acts now as opposed to these guys. And it's not because like these guys worked indies, because the indies they worked, like it's not like they're working in major indie companies like, the Revival were working in the Carolinas, and Enzo and Cass, like, I think they're mostly PC products that weren't even wrestling. So just interesting to see that difference between like then and now. Our next contest is for, I don't know how I always get these, is for the Divas title, as Natalya is going to get the hometown pop. Although it's not really hometown, home country, taking on Charlotte Flair, our champion. Charlotte is going to retain. I went with 3 1/4, JT.
Yeah, 3.5 for me. I like this a decent amount. Again, the crowd was pretty into it. Natalya, again, solid worker, like a swagger on the women's side. I just got to put on a good match, and she has good chemistry with Charlotte, dating back to the NXT stuff. So I thought this is well worked, and Charlotte's on a hot streak heading into Mania. So we'll see how that pays off. Okay, up next we have Brock Lesnar taking on. It's basically Luke Harper. It's positioned as a handicap. It's supposed to be Bray. Basically, he's hurt. Then it's gonna be a handicap, but Bray never gets on the ring. He just stands in the aisle. So it's basically Brock squashing Harper. Is what it ends up boiling down to. So anyway, it was a 3 because it was a big man fun squash for 4 minutes. I enjoyed it quite a bit. So it was a good match. It looks like to me, I guess, are they still like, was Brock Ambrose even announced yet? Or are they still hanging on to maybe Brock Wyatt here or what? But I don't know.
Yeah, I thought maybe they announced it, that it was going to be Brock Ambrose. I think I remember hearing that when Brock was going up the aisle.
Right.
They were
so maybe they knew
about,
Bray was cooked and they were just
I think so.
Show.
Yeah.
Because it definitely seemed like they were building that for Mania coming out of the Rumble. So I mean, him getting hurt must have really screwed that up.
Yeah, you don't do all that business, before the Rumble and then at the Rumble without having a major payoff planned. I went 3 as well. It was quick, but it was cool to see Harper get some offense in and really send it against Lesnar, and to see Lesnar kind of take care of Harper on those suplexes, but still made it look good. Brock's just really good, and so is Harper. So our next contest is another countryman, as Sami Zayn takes on Stardust. I went with a 2.75. Nothing super remarkable, just a really solid contest, and a basic good guy versus bad guy match.
Yeah, I went 2 3/4 as well. It was a little disappointing. I mean, it's cool to see Sammy here, and like as they're ramping him up, he had just come back from the injury and all that. He's going to be in a big match at Mania. Cody as Stardust is just uninspiring. I mean, we had the decent stuff with the Mel, like at SummerSlam and all that, but otherwise, it's kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, not really.
It just doesn't really click. It doesn't really hit. Yeah. So he's just maxed out. So again, it was fine, but 2 3/4 for me, which I would consider a disappointment for a match given some time with Zayn, Cody Rhodes, 12 minutes. You would expect him to at least break 3 stars. That brings us to our main event. Triple H defends his world title against Dean Ambrose successfully in 25 minutes. I went 3.5. I thought it was a very good main event. Legend has it a little overrated, I think. Like coming in, I was like, oh, this is that match. And like, it was very good. I didn't think it was great. Again, I also thought here at the time, like, oh, all right, something's up. They're putting this on the network. They're hyping up Ambrose Triple H for a reason. Ambrose has been super over and involved in this feud on TV. Ambrose is going to win the world title here and set up some kind of 4-way. They're gonna. So yeah, Ambrose Brock was announced because I remember thinking he's gonna win the title and they're gonna merge the matches together and put the 4 of them into the mix at Mania, and Reigns will win the belt back there. So doesn't happen. Triple H successfully defends, and then everyone realized, okay, guess we're getting that.
The plan is the plan.
Yeah. So strong finish of the show though.
Yeah, I went to 3.75, just a really solid wrestling match. And the finish, it built up really well. Crowd was really into it, I thought. And reading Moxley's book, Mox, he talks about this match. Just some really interesting insight. And I felt that way at the time, like, oh, this thing's kind of being called out in the ring, which just kind of worked like that. And then reading the book and having that confirmed, which is pretty cool because you don't get that a lot in this era of WWE, just because the action is so advanced and athletic that, some of it does kind of feel a little, rehearsed and run through. So this was just kind of a good classic throwback wrestling match that I liked.
All right, so that nets out a score of 4.5. So not as strong as a little bit, but a little bit better than Fastlane, below the Rumble. So again, that was still a strong outing. All right, let's get to our build. A point for using the network to add a last-minute pay-per-view. A good vibe heading into Mania, made it seem like a big deal. I like them using the network at this point to this kind of stuff. It's like, hey, why not? Why not do these kind of things? We got this thing where we can do whatever we want. Let's hype up this house show and make it a big deal. I thought that was always smart when they did that. A point for the intense End Zone Cast Dash and Dawson feud that they highlighted was going on in NXT. A point for the Lesnar Wyatt feud for the Rumble. Brock wants revenge. A point for Ambrose being top of the card all year. You're kind of teasing potentially getting Ambrose Reigns. Ambrose wants respect. He's getting left out. So all part of the build for this match here.
For our minuses, we have Y2AJ really being an aimless start for Styles, as we talked about. We've got Jericho Swagger. Seems a little bit random. Jericho does his best to talk about like Swagger taking the world title from him and cashing Money in the Bank. Thought that was a good inclusion, but still not enough. Leaning on a lot of stuff from 2010. So like the Money in the Bank stuff to carry on. That's like asking a lot of the audience to like, hey, do you remember that? Like, they should have done more on TV, I think, to drill that into the audience. And then you've been all over this season, and I definitely agree. So much obsession about being the face of the company and like, who's going to represent the business and the company and like what's best for business. And like, it's exhausting to hear your world champion referred to like that. And it kind of makes everybody involved just a little bit unlikable. Like the audience has been conditioned. Yeah. And the audience has been conditioned to not like that. And here we are fighting over who gets to be, number one in that.
All season has been this stupid corporate battle of the face of the company and the corporate channel. It's just like it's been one of the worst parts of watching this season, honestly, is that there's been a lot of good matches, some fun moments, but that has been like a drag on it. Like director of operations, the authority, we want the right brand. Like, no, we don't want to hear it. We don't want to hear it. All right, so that's +1 for build. Commentary, nice job putting over Jericho's career resume for newer fans. A point for good use of the NXT match to hype up the first takeover coming over the WrestleMania weekend takeover. So this was a tease for that to get you excited. And a point for Cole hyping up Zayn's independent career and experience again for the crowd as well. So you could tell the commentary was a little more laid back on this night. They took advantage of it and did some different stuff.
Yeah, you can see some of like what Michael Cole can do when he's not hyper produced, which is can be really good work. For our minuses, we've got JBL's dismissive attitude about Byron, Cole screaming and pointing out things that we need to see and know. Look at that. All of the Stardust banter. It's really bad during like a really slow match. And then commentary hyping that Ambrose can change WrestleMania, which they've really hammered home. Like, oh, this match could completely, change up what we're doing for WrestleMania. And it's like, okay, cool, that's exciting. And then you don't give the fans an exciting thing. It's like, why? What was the point?
All right, so then that's out to a -1. Atmosphere, gave a point for a New Day being super over. A point for the cool feel to the arena's dark. It's like a simple old school vibe, like an old MSG show. A point for the old Toronto Maple Leaf Garden show. A point for the huge Jericho pop. A point for End Zone Cass's entrance. A point for the loud NXT chants. Just full engagement with those acts. It shows the crowd is into the product. A point for the crowd being into Natty and Charlotte. And a point for the hot split crowd during the main event.
Yep. For our minuses, we've got Bray's promo in the aisle ruins his usual amazing
Yeah,
entrance.
we didn't get the whole thing.
Yeah. No crowd investment into Stardust, and then we got random CM Punk chants for no good reason during the main event.
Like 2 years out. Come on. All right, so that's a +4 for atmosphere. Notable moments, really not a lot. We went +1 for the WBOs, which is a big thing at this time. And then we gave the max +3 for future stars. So what we've decided is if you get three or more debuts, we're just going to cap it at 3 because some of these shows we're getting like, and Mania's coming up to, we get like 5, 6, 7, like a ton of debuts, and it's like it's going to be a ridiculous amount of points. So we're going to go cap at 3. So anytime we hit 3 major debuts on a pay-per-view or 3 WrestleMania debuts, which we usually kind of give credit for as well, if it's a big star, we're going 3 max. So this one had that. We had, Revival, we had Enzo and Cass, so we had more than enough for 3 points on that.
For our minuses, we have the Y injury forcing things to switch over to Harper and the glorified one-on-one match. And then titling a show Roadblock that causes absolutely no issues for anybody. All the champions retained.
Nothing changed going.
Yeah, nothing was in jeopardy really. So, poorly done there.
All right, so it's a +2 for moments. Card structure, we give a point for starting hot with the New Day entrance, a point for the NXT showcase, and a point for Natty being the top contender in Canada. Like it was a good choice. It was just a kind of a throwaway show anyway, so why not burn it?
For the minus, we've got the unneeded Dusty finish in the main event, even though the crowd seemed a little bit into it, and then it really just telegraphed the finish since they won't do the double pop. So.
Right, once they faked it, like okay, he's not going to win it again a minute later, so you knew Triple H was winning. So +2 for card structure, rewatchability. We gave a point for Natty saying Brett called the Flairs cowards. That was funny. And then a point for Sammy's home country reception, which was awesome.
Yep. And then Jericho's heel promo. It was kind of like a generic heel promo to try to get heat.
It wasn't that exciting.
I feel like he does that every time he's in Canada.
So that's a +1 for watchability. No all-time matches leaves us with a total WAR score of 13.5. So a little above Fastlane, a pretty strong showing. It's in the top half of shows we've done. That puts it, let's see, right above UK Championship Tournament Night 2 from 2018, just below Extreme Rules 15 and Capital Punishment 11. So 1, 2, 3, 4 out of that. So let's call it like a top 38 show.
Okay.
The 70-ish we've done. So not bad.
Pretty middling, but that's not a bad thing necessarily.
So how do you feel about the build now to Mania? Like watching these 3 shows? Like, I mean, I feel like we're in a pretty good spot heading into Mania. Like there's some excitement. I know injuries are hurting things a little bit. We'll see how these final few weeks go. There's some questionable stuff on the Mania card, obviously, but there is potential for it to be a very good show if done correctly.
Yeah, if done correctly, it's the key phrase there. But it's very concentrated and focused. Like it's not like maybe a build like as we'll get to when we do the 99-2000 season. I know that build to WrestleMania's, or we already did that one, didn't we? We did WrestleMania 2000.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did that one. Okay, so the build for that one is a little bit all over the place.
Right.
Whereas this one, we know the major talent involved, we know the matches, and like they all have a very clear and concise build, even if it's unspectacular sometimes, like with the world title picture. It's at least a clear path. So it's very focused.
Yep. All right, you want to read through our top 10 before we wrap up?
Let me get over there. You want to get us started?
Yep. Okay. Our 10th best show right now is Fully Loaded, 1999 with 26.25.
I'm still trying to navigate it.
I'll get you next one. Number 9 is NXT TakeOver War Games 2 with 26.5.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Keep going.
Number 8, NXT TakeOver New York, 28.25. Number 7, Royal Rumble 2000 with 28.5. Number 6, Money in the Bank 2011 at 28.75. Then we get a pretty good jump into the top 5. The top 5 feel like there's a tier if you kind of look at the 2 scores of the bottom 5, top 5. We got Royal Rumble 2016 with 32. That was one we talked about tonight. WrestleMania 21 is 4th with 33.5. SummerSlam 2015, 35.25. Royal Rumble 2005, 36.5. And SummerSlam 1999, still our king at 38.25.
Highly controversial SummerSlam 1999.
It's So it's an interesting spread. I mean, from that to the 10th place show is a 10-point spread there, but the top 5 is 5 points. So that's a little bit closer. On the other end, if you want to look like our worst scores, just to give you some context, Over the Limit 2011 is our worst show at -9. Wrestling Classic 85 at -6. So, I mean, that's a 40+ point spread between our best to worst, which is pretty good. I think when you start to look at the average shows, you're looking in that stretch of, some of the ones we were talking about earlier, like Extreme Rules 15, Capital Punishment 11, WrestleMania 2000 you just mentioned, WrestleMania 28, Payback 15. Like, it's at probably 13 to 15 is like your middle of the road for us. So
exactly.
0, originally we thought, when we started this podcast, 0 would be like our middle ground and we'd go up and down, but now it's really settled where that 10 to 15-ish or whatever is that's like your average, and anything below that is kind of our worst stuff.
Yeah.
Above that starts to be our best stuff. So, all right, that's another show. So we'll be back in 2 weeks, Marcus. We'll talk WrestleMania 32, just that. And we'll do our year-end awards, which is always fun. And then we'll start to preview our next season. Check out everything the North-South Connection has to offer. If you're watching on video, thank you. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. We give not all of our shows, but most of our shows now are in video format. Everything still is audio, though. And if you just go to NorthSouthConnection.com, everything's there, audio, video. So whatever you want to try and find is there. If you subscribe to any podcatcher app as well, you'll get all the audio too. Social media, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can check us out, any of those, North-South Connection. Continue to live your life above replacement level. We'll talk to you in 2 weeks.